Okay, everybody thank Jerry that we actually started halfway on time.
Really?
Yeah, Claude would still be talking.
Yeah, of course.
Claude's always
I got to get
talking.
cooked up.
We got into talking about the Durango and Silverton, is it?
Yeah, Durango Silverton line and and also the other one. But before that, we were talking about turnouts and dual gauge turnouts like Dennis had on his last update. Anyway, Steve's here today. Yay!
Hey. Yeah.
Tell us who's here. Tell us who's in chat, man, because these guys can't do it very well.
I can't do it because Claude talks. Oh, it's good to be back. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. I should have been in the middle of the country on my second run back from Chattanooga, but that got canceled. So I'm here. Let me see. Oh boy, chat's going by fast. Let's see. We got Chuck CDP. How you doing, Chuck? Rob T-Man, Lynn McCurdy, Schuylkill River Valley, John, Dave, DES Multi. What is all that noise? Dave, DES Multimedia. Allie, good morning, Allison. We got, I think, Gerald Stewart, JD, Grandpa Rails, Mark Pruitt. Good morning, Mark. Let's see. John Tanzillo. Good morning, John. My buddy Bernard. Hey, I was in your neck of the woods last week. We stopped off in Elko just long enough to take a quick break. I'd have called you, but we didn't have time, but I was there. Steve Childers. Good morning, Steve. Who else did I miss? I know I missed somebody.
Gail.
There's Gail. Steve Anderson. Good morning, Steve. Oh, jeez. Anyway. Good morning, guys.
Everyone.
It's good to be home.
That's good to have you back, I think.
Yeah, boy, I tell you.
never quite sure.
And I've got to say hi to my mom. She always watches the replays. She's 90, 91, and she always watches our show. So
what's her name?
Her name is Joyce.
Hi, Joyce.
Hello, Joyce.
Say hi to Joyce.
Welcome, Joyce. I don't know if Bill's going to be here or not. He hasn't popped in yet, and he didn't leave an email. So
I was thinking he was coming to the States this week, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, that could be. He may be traveling.
He's getting his boy enrolled in Ohio State or something.
Yeah, he's probably busy. I don't remember if he said that or not, but yeah, he's probably busy.
I don't know. We always have a feedback. It doesn't matter who talks. Don't know why.
I'm not hearing it.
I am.
Are you? Yeah. You hearing it, Dennis? Dennis is.
Yes.
I think it's you, Dennis, again.
It's always me, so I'm just going to mute my mic.
Well, I don't think it. No.
Is that better?
No,
it's still there.
Okay. Let me do my mic.
I don't know who it is.
Let's see. Test.
Claude.
It's Claude.
We would all benefit by making sure that.
I wonder why it's Claude.
See, I tried to tell Claude that this morning, but it's always me. So
it always does it. I just ignore it.
Claude never listens.
I don't know why it wouldn't do it.
It's still doing it?
Yeah.
I wonder why it doesn't.
How hot is your mic, Claude? Are you at 50% or are you at 90%?
You have cancellation, maybe?
50%?
50%.
How loud is the speaker on your device?
It's on my phone.
How loud is the speaker on your phone that you're
listening? I've got it turned all the way up like I always do.
Because if you'll turn the volume down that you're referencing through, that also helps. That way you're not getting the feedback loop as bad because the speakers aren't going into your mic.
A little bit.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I think it is better.
Yeah.
Well, I can also exit all the way out and come back in.
That's 10 times better.
Okay. You still hear me okay? Not that you want to.
No, it is better though.
Okay.
I just live with it. Live with it, people.
It's annoying.
Well, you know, unless all of us wanted to go get decent quality USB mics and go,
Oh, there you go.
crazy podcast.
Get the big one, the big giant
professionalism.
mics that sit
We're
up
just going to
here.
have to deal with some
Headphone-
abnormalities in the sound. That's just the way it is. Yeah.
Produced by Heath. No, it's not produced by Heath.
We
Yeah,
do, Steve. It's always me. And then I always go back out, make all of my adjustments, and then come back in, and then we start the show, and it's not just me.
No, we never. Sometimes it's not just. Yeah, it can be anybody. We could use headphones, but then we wouldn't look as pretty.
No, yeah. And Allison says shots fired at Steve Anderson. Oh, I
Well,
like.
he's got
I
a
like.
big bow. Steve's got a big bow, so you're gonna have to shoot a long way.
I like John's idea, the cone of silence. Now, how many of you in chat actually get that joke, the cone of silence? I'll bet a lot of them have no clue what that is.
I remember it.
I remember it, but I'm not recalling where it comes from.
Well, he had a shoe phone.
Yeah. Maxwell Smart.
Maxwell Smart.
Get smart. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good show. Sorry about that, Chief.
It was that close.
Missed him by that much.
Anyway, so I don't know how many guys. I guess everybody saw, or most.
As you can see, we have no topic. Let's see. Container Man 68. Good morning, Roy. Dennis could turn his volume up a bit. You are a bit quieter than everybody else. That's not a problem.
I'll let Claude handle that. He's got control of the.
Actually, your volume is just fine.
Yeah, I can hear him. I can turn him up some, but I can hear him just fine.
I think he's fine.
Oh, now see, I moved it and it cut him out completely. That's weird. Now try it, Dennis.
Hello.
That's
so I changed to a mic now, so I think.
Ooh, boy! Now shots fired from Roy Hardwick.
Who cares?
He says you're showing your age, old fart.
I think we got a whole show full of old farts. So Dennis,
Steve Anderson says topic is better to wear a hat or not during a live stream. What does that mean?
I guess he's referring to me not wearing a hat.
Oh, that could be.
It's definitely better for if I'm wearing one.
Oh, me too.
Dennis, are you still no mic? I couldn't hear you last time. Yeah, I'm not hearing you. I moved your mic setting, the volume, and it cut you out completely for some reason.
Go in your mic setting, Dennis, and fix it.
That's just weird.
Well, we got 29 people, and all we're doing is bull crapping. We don't even have anything to say.
Yeah, well, pretty much the same. No, Steve, here, see, this is why there's a hat. So everybody doesn't get any glare in their eye.
I'm not taking mine off.
You're no different than me. Steve, you
I have no problem with being bald either.
Steve, you have hair.
I got hair.
Well, he's got a little bit of hair anyway.
Well, he's got more than me. More than you.
Well, that's true. I got more than Claude, too.
Yeah.
I've got as much as I've always had, but it's just slid further south.
Hey, Jack, what's going on with your layout?
Whoops.
How you doing there, Dennis?
I hear you
Hit the
choo-choo.
wrong one. Having issues with planning ops with service switching. Well, that's part of the fun, though, is figuring out how you do it. especially if you got a bottleneck or something like that. That's what makes switching interesting, I think, is the problem-solving part of it.
Dennis.
He's not talking. He's on strike.
Can anybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Ew. Yeah.
I don't know why it changed. That's weird.
And now you're
StreamYard. That's all I can say. StreamYard.
Yeah, you're a little staticky, but we can hear you. Path Valley says he's not doing anything on his layout, but today I have to get into the club trailer and get things ready for the show in Danville next month. Yeah, that's always fun.
well, and Steve Anderson wants to know how my trip was. That would take the whole show. If I explained how my trip was, that's all we talk about.
You guys don't want to hear. You think I talk a lot.
It was a Shizmet show.
Chuck says, Jerry, that's why you keep the room dark, because you don't wear a hat.
My room's not dark. You can see.
Chuck seems to think it is, but anyway.
I don't know. Somewhat dark. I don't know.
Menard said we should have sanded our headboards.
Sanded our headboards. What's that? This?
Bernard, you're crazy. You know that?
I don't get that. I don't get that, Bernard.
No. Unfortunately, I do. Anyway. Okay, Jack says his layout's done, putting building in place for service switching ops. You're not sorry about the caps. I could care less if people type in caps. Some people, it really offends them if you do that.
Yeah, because they say you're yelling at them.
Well, sometimes
It's
you just
because
do
we're
it.
old enough that texting is just texting. It's not
Yeah.
a legitimate form of communication.
Really? Yeah. Sometimes it's just words.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if I do caps, it's not for yelling, it's for emphasis. So that you know that that's what it is. But if you can't hear my voice, there's no way I can yell at you. I don't care what you think, but there's no way I can yell at you. Now talk, Dennis.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's better. Okay.
That's better.
I put on the echo cancellation. That helped with the static, it seems like.
I wonder if I get balloons and fireworks. No.
You had a thumbs up earlier before the show. Yeah.
Oh, I did.
I had one pop up. Anyway, what I was going to say before, if any of you guys saw Dennis's last update, just the other day, was it yesterday or the day before?
Thursday night.
He was showing one of his dual gauge turnouts that diverge, and we were talking about whether or not you had to have points on those diverging turnouts, and we were discussing whether or not you could make it work if each of the incoming gauges went off their separate way. And Dennis agreed with me that if they were sharing the same rail to that side, that the narrow gauge goes off, then you could do it, but you couldn't do it the other way. And I had to show it to him that he could do it the other way. But
I still haven't made the decision of how it would work.
Yeah. Well, you have to just look at it and ponder it for a little bit.
Well, I'm going to look at it. I think you're right, but I'm still not 100% sure where the guardrail needs to be to keep the narrow gauge or the diverging route to pull it on the other side of the toad. That's the thing, is how does that actually work? Because you're going to have to pull that wheel set off of the common rail, and to me that would have to take place before where the points should be.
Yeah, but see, it doesn't matter if you look at one of those. You don't just look at it as standard and narrow. You just look at it as two different ways, because any place that you've got to go the other side of a toad point, you have to have a guardrail to pull the wheel set the way you want it to go.
Or the rail actually diverges that way, and that's what pulls you on the other side of the toad. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that I agree with what you're saying. I still haven't quite, I can't see in my mind where that, the diverging rail, the one that's going to take the radius to diverge on, where that radius begins to even pull the wheel set off of the common rail.
Hey, Claude.
That's where I'm a little confused at.
Claude, maybe you
Seeing
can.
where it actually pulls it off.
Claude, maybe you could show it again like we did before the show, because Jack is asking if you can see the layout, the switch on the layout.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was going to say too, right quick, and I'll do that while I'm moving the phone and the camera and stuff.
Because I'm still confused, and I was watching it.
If you okay, make this big. Once you're building the turnout, if you do everything except the guardrails like you think it needs to be, then when you do the guardrail, or when you do that and run a truck set through, you can see where to put the guardrail real easy, because you'll see where it's trying to pick the point. And any place that's trying to pick the points where you need a guardrail. Just turned on again. Now, what we were talking about, I'll show you this one first. And this one doesn't have real good light, but it's right here. Let me get my pointer. Okay, so right here, we have dual coming in. Okay, now when we get down here, we're going to split them. Okay, so you got a single gauge going each direction. You don't have to have a moving point. So right here is the toad. To get the standard to pick that toad on the correct side, I had to put a guardrail over here. Okay, the narrow gauge goes on to the right because of the other stock rail pushes it that way. So it'll stay this side. So let me show you how it goes the other direction.
So, Claude, that point doesn't move then on that other turnout?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't. Okay, now here I'm going the opposite direction. So I'm crossing. This was the crossover, Dennis. The narrow gauge is on the left, and this is where Dennis was talking about having a problem. There again, sorry about the light. Here's the toad for the narrow gauge. The standard gauge is going straight through. Okay. So it comes through here, and you've got guardrails at the frogs, because here's a frog here. And then you've got a guardrail here to pick that, to make it stay left. But the narrow gauge wants to go right. So right here at the toad, here's a guardrail to pull the narrow gauge that direction and make it pick this proper way. Once you get past that toad, everything else flows like it's supposed to. All you got to do is do your guardrails on the frog, just like this. See, both of these have to have a guardrail there on this frog so that they go the correct way.
Okay, so now I was confused.
I
thought that point moved, so I see that point.
No, this point is static. There's no point on it. Now this one I did put a point on, but I didn't need to. I could have done it exactly like this one right here and do away with this tortoise, and I may end up doing that.
I could say, why didn't you? That so just because
I cannot do that because the narrow gauge goes straight through here. It diverges and goes through, and the standard goes straight through. So anytime you have the same thing going out on one of the legs that you have coming in, then you have to have moving points.
Right.
So that the narrow gauge can be switched. The standard's always going to go through as long as your points don't interfere with that. So if I have the points made for the diverging on the narrow gauge, I don't want a standard coming through here because it'll derail.
That must get very confusing when you got it in the jig and you're building it.
It actually isn't. And that's kind of what I was talking to Dennis about, or asking him about, if it became clearer to him as he's putting it together. You just tend to, or at least I do, it starts becoming clearer as I'm building, because I start visualizing what I have to have and where those frogs, whether they're a toad or a full frog like this. Now, this is only when it crosses across the standard gauge. When it goes off on the same side, you don't have to have that. See, this one doesn't have that.
Well, when you're in the jig, where do you find it if you need to build a bullfrog?
Say that again.
No, just forget it.
If you need to build a bullfrog, where would you put that one?
A bullfrog?
Yeah.
You mean a toad?
No, bullfrog.
Regular frog?
No, bullfrog. You got a toad and a frog. I want a bullfrog. I'm just joking.
He's just messing with you, Claude. He's just
man.
But anyway, does that clear it up any?
Yeah.
I've got, like I say, I've got all three of the examples right here, and I didn't realize that earlier when we were talking. But
I
now,
got
see,
it cleared up.
This is a complete turnout with both gauges going both ways, so you have to have points.
Okay, Claude,
and on this one, you actually have three separate rails that move to pick up both of them.
On a serious note, Jack's got a question. He
Okay.
said, so it's all about placing the guardrail in the right place, firm the point rail to stay in the direction you want to run.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if you took an HO standard gauge wheel set and ran it this way, and you want it to go straight, you didn't have this guardrail right here on this opposite rail, it would want to pick this unless you're holding it across. Okay. So if you don't have this guardrail, there's nothing to keep the wheel set from coming this direction. And if you do that, then you understand it has to have a guardrail right there. I mean, if you've been building the turnouts, if you've never built one of these, it's much harder to understand, in my opinion, on where stuff has to be. But once you've built a few turnouts, especially dual gauge turnouts, it starts becoming much clearer to you where stuff has to be.
And Lynn's got a question, Claude. He said he'd like to know, when the standard and the narrow meet, who has the right of way?
Well, I would leave that up to the yard master or whoever's in charge of that decision. I don't know. It would depend on if it was a priority train or not, I guess. I don't know that one gauge would have priority over the other. On my layout, the standard gauge would have priority because it's a straight through in this area where I have dual gauge track. And it depends on what the standard gauge train is doing. If the standard gauge train stopped at the freight yard or freight station or something like that, picking up freight, or at a depot picking up passengers, and you've got a narrow gauge bringing freight down from the mountain going into this yard, it just depends on where they're going to be at what time. Have a time schedule just like any other place.
Actually, Heath makes it. Well, he says, isn't a bullfrog the hand throw from fast tracks? Actually, if you want to get technical, in real railroading, when you're doing switching in a yard, the first switch into the yard is called the bull switch. And I'm serious on that one.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never heard it called a bullfrog though, but
no, it's called the bull switch.
Yeah, but
Why?
Into Heath's point, Fast Tracks does have a bullfrog, what they call a bullfrog, laser cut manual switch, and I've got one right here that goes to the stub switch, and it works from underneath, and it has the frog, wiring connections and all that to it. It's got a little micro switch on it that works. But anyway, that's how these go, and what you can do with them. And there's all kinds of stuff you can build when you're building your own just like that Y switch right there is exactly the same jig as this three-way with the center leg omitted. I did the same thing up here on the top level. That Y switch is the same, and that one over there is the same as a three-way. I did those both with the three-way jig, but I also modified them. This one curves more coming out instead of being straight coming out. The curved rail goes all the way to the frog to give me more divergence in a shorter span.
That's a cool looking section right there.
Well, and see, that's the whole, what you're talking about, of building hand throws or building, your own switches. You could never do your layout if you didn't build your own switches.
Oh, no. There are two commercial parts in this besides the flex track. The crossings are both Shinohara crossings, just because I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't have a jig for a crossing, and I didn't want to pay for one again. This one down here, and I don't remember who I got it from, but
What they have paper for, Claude.
I'm sorry?
That's why they have paper, Claude.
Yeah. Well, I didn't feel like trying to make the angles and stuff on it that I needed, because I didn't have the jigs for it, and I just didn't feel like taking it. But I had this. I paid for this one, but the other two on the top level were a third of the cost of that one switch that one crossover on the bottom. And it's a nice crossover turnout, but I mean, a nice crossover, but it was custom made, so it was more money.
So,
well, Heath says that narrow gauge seems to be very, very complicated. And he also says you have to be narrow-minded to do narrow gauge.
It helps.
Yeah, well, not narrow-minded necessarily, but crazy.
So Claude, I have a question. Does your standard gauge terminate somewhere?
No, sir. It's a loop to loop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a loop to loop, and they both loops are stacked on top of each other in the mountain.
Gotcha.
And I have automatic turnout throws that act like a real life spring switch, basically.
Right.
And they're automated by laser detection thing that, or an optical detection that picks that up and turns the, one of these days I'll get this right here.
That's pretty cool.
It picks up the senses of the train and flips the, it flips the turnout like it's supposed to go.
Wonder if you can get it to flip your phone for you.
Yeah, really. I need to, as much as it wants to whip up on its side.
So, who makes those?
Oh, the automated.
Yeah, the automated thing.
Tracks.
That sounds pretty.
Is the name of the company. And they have, they've got crossing signals and all that stuff too, all the automated stuff like that.
Right.
But I found them, and I needed something like that so I could turn the standard gauge train on and let it go loop to loop. And then I can run my narrow gauge in the meantime.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
And I've got that conflict of the standard gauge coming through. The narrow gauge yard is on one side of the tracks, double main line in that area. And it's got to cross over to the other side of the main line to get up the mountain.
So when you were doing your layout, Claude, did you put it on paper or you just built it?
Yeah, I used the same thing Dennis used, the Empire Express, but only for general layout.
Okay.
I didn't put it down saying this is where it's absolutely going to go.
Right.
I built it as I was going, which is not the best way. I wouldn't suggest doing that. I think you're better off putting it down on paper and keeping it pretty close to that. But I don't work that way.
When you say putting it on paper, do you mean like literally printing out the track plan, or are you being figurative?
Well, at least get a pretty close to your measurements that you want. You're always going to have to adjust stuff as you're finding out on your part that you're working on now.
Well, what I've done is have a general track plan. And then when I get to a specific area and I know exactly what the dimensions I'm working with are in that area, oftentimes I will create another track plan just in that area. Like, you know, Hellgate, I went in, measured the plywood, and then created another track plan in addition to the general track plan.
Yeah.
That way I can get it that much closer, and I know that it will work at this radius, which is the whole reason that my custom curved radiuses came about, is because once I made that main track plan, I figured out that there was no way a 24 by 19 inch radius curved turnout was going to work because it was just too sharp. So I think we talked about this last weekend with the how I did this, but this is the end result, and like similar to what Claude did, you know, I just leave this in really long, and then you can thread back on the plastic ties from Flex Track, and then you've got some customization on both of your routes out of the turnout. So I have no idea what the radius is on this. I just made it on paper.
You need to, Dennis, you need to show us what you've done since your premiere on Thursday. I'm sure you've done a whole lot more.
I mean, other than showing you two other turnouts similar to this, I really can't show you because I'm in the process of gluing cork onto the plywood. I should have all the cork glued on by the end of the weekend, and I've got an order in for the Model Railroad Control Systems turnouts that I'm going to use, the MP1s. I should get those sometime this next week, and then I can actually install the turnouts. But this weekend, basically, all I can do is glue cork, and I'm putting a three-way in on that I didn't plan for. It didn't even make my my track plan of the track plan, my down to the nitty-gritty track plan. The three-way didn't even make it on there. But once I started tweaking things and getting everything where it was, I discovered that I needed a three-way, and it was a much better solution than another custom curved radius. DCC.
Yeah, I was going to put, I was trying to find that link.
My answer is yes.
Hey, Heath wants to know if Gail knows about your three ways.
She doesn't.
Heath, yeah, they're both on the DCC, and technically they're on the same bus, although I have two, I separate mine with the upper level and the lower level. So once the narrow gauge crosses over the standard gauge, it goes to the secondary control center or control unit and goes up. So I've only got them separated in those two because I'm not running, you know, a whole bunch of trains. So I'll know pretty much where the short's going to be. If it does short, it'll be wherever the train's sitting. Most likely anyway. So it's all on basically the same bus, but then it splits at the command stations. What I want to say. And Chuck, yeah, I'm going to look for that. I'm going to let these guys talk a little bit. Oh, there it is. Chuck found it. Yeah, Azatrax is where I got those.
Oh, so that's how
they have there again much more than just the automated turnout stuff.
Azatrax, A-Z-A.
A-Z, yeah.
I couldn't find it. I was looking for it, but I couldn't.
I've never heard of it.
No, me either.
Dennis is in trouble after the show.
Yep.
Okay. What do we got? Any other questions? You're welcome, Chuck.
Hi, Gail.
So, are there any other questions on the turnout stuff? I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. but then I've built them and I've been through the process, and that's kind of what I was asking Dennis about when he did the other one that he did. And you can, there again, as long as you're going single off each way, as far as the gauges, then you don't need points. You just got to have your guardrails in the right spot.
So there's no point to building those
Points.
No point.
Only if your dual gauge goes, in one of the directions or both the directions, then you have to have points. Somehow I understood that.
Yeah.
This is always in trouble. Yeah. That kind of goes for most husbands, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're always in trouble.
Always in trouble. Yeah.
It just depends on how much.
Anyway, anybody else got any other questions about that or anything else?
Steve Anderson wants to know how many frying pans Gail has.
How many what?
Frying pans.
Not counting the ones Dennis has on his layout.
How many what?
Frying pans.
Oh.
Cast iron frying pans.
Yeah.
Likely.
Steve's just weird.
Can you have narrow gauge switch side of the standard gauge so you only need toads to split the gauges?
I think that's an accurate statement. I think that's what Claude is saying. If you're only splitting off the gauges into either a left or a right, it doesn't matter whether it's narrow or standard, you don't need points.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what side the narrow gauge is on coming into it. You can still do it because those two switches up there, one was one way and one was the other way. Now, if it's on, say your narrow gauge is on the left side, but you want to diverge it to the right, then you're going to have two sets of frogs. Oh, there I go again. You're going to have two sets of frogs, but you don't have to have points.
Hey, Claude, try on your phone. Go into settings as far as when you're turning your phone, you can lock that. Did it do it again? Well, you can do a setting on your phone so that when you turn it, it doesn't switch around.
But he's not touching it.
I'm not touching it.
Well,
It just does it on its own.
It's just doing it on its own. I don't know why. But
yeah. Steve is saying to go ahead and lock the screen out, and it probably won't happen. I agree. If you took the time to lock the screen after you orientated it, it might not. I don't know.
Yeah, but then if I wanted to turn it to take pictures or video or something, then I'd have to go into settings and take that off.
It's okay, Claude. Just leave it.
It's not worth doing all that.
Gives us something to talk about.
yeah.
Gail says she has 3 or 4. One of them is really big. It's a two-hander. But the thing about that, Gail, is if it's a two-hand frying pan, you only have to swing it once. You'll take care of him.
I'm a faster runner, though. Let's just be honest. I can outrun her. She has to sneak attack.
You usually get the smallest one. You hit him upside the head. It's only been in enough trouble to get the big one a couple of times so far. Well, he's doing pretty good then if he's only been in trouble that much twice. Remember
this, Dennis. You always have to go to sleep.
It's true.
That's the reason that's where the hat, the flat spots. Yeah. Or the lumps, one or two.
Last Saturday after the show, I went over to my local train store and I picked up this Proto 2000 kit. Didn't know they made these things, these kits.
Oh yeah,
kits. I don't know.
I've got some of those. Not that particular one, but I've got some Proto kits.
Oh, so I put it together. You can't really see it too good, but it's a really detailed kit. Really surprised how.
Yeah, they're nice kits. From what I can tell of it, I haven't built one of them yet, but I've opened them up and looked at them.
All grab irons. I mean, it was hard to put together, but really nice kits, metal wheels. I was really surprised. Undercarriage is really nice and detailed. I like them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, I've got a few of them. I think I got some cattle cars and some tank cars in those.
hey, Dennis Heath wants to know how many towns are on your layout, how many are done, how many you need to build.
Let me think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe there will be a total of 6. And
There's
I
a
have
lot of them.
one more after I get Hellgate. I'm working on my 5th right now, I believe.
That's a lot of water towers to have to build.
Yeah.
Water tanks, not towers.
Yeah, I didn't.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Bernard, I didn't pick it because I like it. I picked it because it was the only one. I'm probably going to patch it out and change it to something else.
Oh, don't
But,
patch out the WP, man. That was my favorite railroad.
Yeah, well, you know, things change, Steve.
Oh, well. Not when you're old.
Yeah. I just bought it because it was a cool kit, and it was the only one. I would have bought more of them, but I've been looking on eBay. Some people think very fondly of these things.
Yeah,
and some
especially
people
anymore.
don't. Yeah, it's like, I see them all for all different prices. $30, $40 to like $8.
The last kit that I did a little tank. I guess it would be like a propane tank, most likely. And it's not made to be a tank car. It's made to be a tank, like on the side of the road. But it was a resin kit, and I can't remember who I got it from, but it was off eBay, and it turned out to be a really nice little kit.
Yeah.
Once I got it sanded down like I wanted and got it painted and everything, and I'm going to end up putting it on a flat car, on a narrow gauge flat car for a tank car. But it made a really nice little kit. I can't remember who it was that I got it from, but it was on eBay 2 or 3 years ago. Sure.
Yeah, Heath. I'm kind of enjoying this HO stuff as more than N scale. Not that I don't like N scale, I just can't see it. It's just too hard for me, and it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating that I can't see like I used to.
Well,
I completely agree with that statement.
That's why you see so many older guys going O scale now.
Steve, I put those magnifying things on. I hate wearing them, but they help. But I hate wearing them. It's like it frustrates me. Like I didn't need these things before, But I'm old.
Well, Jerry,
now.
go to inch and half scale. Everything's
there
really
easy.
I've been like watching a lot of YouTube videos, and there's so many other scales out there. Like it's crazy. I don't even know what half of these scales. Like I saw somebody who had like 18-inch scale, they called it. I can't remember what the other model scale was. It was like crazy. I never heard of it. Like there's like scales between scales or something. I don't know.
He says he really likes F scale.
Is that
I
real?
Like
I don't think it's what he thinks it is. Knowing Heath, I don't think he knows what that is. But yeah, I agree. I don't have trouble seeing working on the HON3, which is not quite as small as N scale, but it's close.
Yeah.
It's not the seeing it; it's the applying the small details.
Yeah, the small details are
using tweezers and anymore when I get down to that small stuff, I shake too much. And
same thing. Like when I was putting the grab irons on this thing, they were driving me crazy with tweezers and like, like what I wound up doing was reaming out the holes a little bit so that they go in easier. Like I was like, they're so fragile. I broke one, and like you start putting them in, and they pop off, and they like you got to find this little thing. And it's like,
Brass. Use,
yeah,
use brass instead of plastic would be my
yeah.
suggestion.
Gerald
But
Stewart says F is GN3. Boy, you could almost write on that. Well, not Jerry. Jerry couldn't.
no,
Or you, Claude. You wouldn't either.
I know I couldn't.
I couldn't.
No, I don't think G scale's gonna hold anybody.
who's riding on G scale, Steve?
What's that?
Who's riding on G scale? Nobody's
Toddlers.
riding on G scale.
That would almost be the size of
A G scale. Not that big.
1 inch to probably 3/4 scale.
You'd be hard pressed.
What
You'd be hard
what
pressed
is
to put a
the
toddler on G
conversion
scale.
for G?
G scale is just Garden Railroad size.
Yeah.
Well, but what is that?
124,
135, 125.
no.
What is it?
124, 125, something like that.
Somewhere in there, yeah. But it's. I say you'd be very hard pressed to
Big.
put even a toddler on a car and put it down on G scale track and have it work.
Yeah.
Maybe a squirrel.
You'd be hanging off each side so bad it'd be very, very unbalanced.
Well, Steve says cats and turtles ride G scale.
Yeah,
Well,
cats,
yeah.
turtles, maybe squirrels.
Yeah. Steve can in his mind too. Anderson.
Oh,
JD
Dennis,
says it's 124. Yeah, it's just not.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I think we're gonna have to put Anderson on a timeout.
yeah. Dennis, those
We
river
never do
transport
that. We
flies
never
look good.
remove anybody or put anybody on a timeout. Maybe we'll do Steve.
Mark Pruitt depends 132, 124.1. Is that a reference to Mr. Mom? Whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
What are you laughing at, Dennis?
I was laughing
Hey.
at Jerry. Jerry can't get a word in edgewise.
Can't get a word in edgewise with you, Arnold.
That's usually my problem.
I was saying, Dennis, those cars you did for the river transfer look very nice.
That I did?
Yeah, didn't you do cars? You
I
said
did one. Yeah.
they were on. You showed a picture on your layout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
This happens to be right here.
Is that so that's
Oh God,
narrow
that's
gauge?
small.
Narrow
what?
gauge. Narrow gauge.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a wood kid or?
So this is a 3D print. I apologize. I can't remember the guy I got it from.
Okay, it looks nice.
It's I think I paid $24 for the kit. I didn't use the trucks that he provided, and I also didn't use the grabs because they're plastic or 3D print, whatever kind of plastic that is. I made no attempt to use them. I used brass.
So did you make your grabs or did you buy them?
Do what?
Did you
You're
make
really
the grab
quiet,
irons?
Jerry.
Did you make the grab irons or did you buy them?
I made them. I mean, and they're too big. But what I had available was this 11. Of course, it's going to be backwards. 1103 phosphorus bronze is actually.
Do you
what
have
I
a
used.
jig or something?
Do what?
Do you have a jig?
The kit came with a jig, so you could actually see where things were supposed to go. It wasn't designed specifically for making grab irons. It was just designed to say this grab iron goes where, but I used that to decide the width. And of course you also had, the hole, there were holes already in it. So I had that to kind of help making it. So but you can tell that they're oversized.
Yeah.
What
from
Dennis, what does the jig look like that you made the handrails? That That's
Well,
kind of interesting.
I'm saying, it's not really a jig.
How did you get them all the same size?
Yeah, how did you make them uniform?
Here it is. I just happen to have it. So this is it. And
Hi,
again,
Gail. Hi, Gail. Where's your frying
God, I
pan?
thought she had a frying pan.
I gotta say, where's your frying pan?
So I think these are the widths of what's needed. And
Put that closer to the camera. God, that's small. I can't see it.
where is the
Get a bigger screen, Steve.
Yeah.
Of course,
I'm old.
the
I can't
light
see.
is.
That's all right. I see it.
Okay.
Did that come with it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this came with it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And
Huh.
again, I think these are just the widths, and it kind of gives you an idea of where they're supposed to go.
Okay.
But what I actually used is just this.
To bend them?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can find one of your teats in here that's the approximate size, and you just bend it and stick it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
Nice.
I know they make a tool, I think, that's specific to grab irons somewhere, that you can actually put your wire in and bend in specific locations. I eventually I'll probably get one of those, because I am going to make a bunch of these at some point, in the future, because I don't like paying what Blackstones are going for now. And this is it's a lot more labor intensive, but you end up with a pretty good product at the end result. And
Well,
I'm
Jay,
sorry, Heath, I didn't paint the bottom green like his prototype is, but this kind of blends in with what would be a maintenance away car. So when I get some maintenance of way, I can throw this in with it and run it. I wouldn't put it in a magazine or anything like that, because it's not at all anything to do with the Otter Creek. But I will darn sure run it on the railroad and enjoy it.
Whose couplers are they?
Do what?
Couplers. Whose couplers?
Those are Katie 714, 715s.
Okay.
Something like that, probably. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but I think that's what they are. And then the trucks, of course, you can see here, if you're painting your car and you're trying to get your paint to dry quicker with a hair dryer,
Oh, big mistake.
this will happen. You can do it, but you need to make sure that you're far enough away and your heat setting is very low. I found out the hard way.
So now you ruined it, huh?
Well, I ruined this truck, but
Yeah.
those are KD 720s.
See, something like that, Dennis, you don't even turn the heat on the.
Well,
you
my
just blow
hair
air.
dryer I don't have an option for no heat. I had it on low, but I just got it too close and held
What
it
are
too
you
long.
using to paint? What are you using for paint?
So this was
No, for your trucks. The trucks.
oh, for the trucks?
Yeah.
So as I think, I don't remember exactly, I used a Absalon, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's an oil. And what I do is I put about a half a cup of mineral spirits, odorless mineral spirits into the cup on the airbrush, and
Say
then
that
you get
fast.
just a dab of the oil on your paintbrush. You mix it in the mineral spirits, and then you have dust. And I believe that's all I did with these trucks. Is I left them black because I think they would have been black, and I airbrushed that dust on in 3 or 4 different very thin layers, and then I think I dry brushed a little bit of the same color of gray that I had available in Air, Model Air. Heath is just trolling. Heath, quit trolling.
He is. He's 9mm track is an N gauge. An N gauge would be closer to 2.5 feet, 2.5 foot gauge, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't recall, but it's just
we both
one of those
use
things that when people say, "Oh, well, narrow gauge, HO narrow gauge is the same as N scale, right?"
No. Not 3-foot gauge is not the same. It's closer to 2.5 foot scale. What it is.
But still, I mean, if you take code 83 N scale, it would be like less than code 55 in height wise for HO.
Oh yeah. N scale flex track is way too big for anything actually, gauge wise.
And the tie spacing is completely wrong. The tie width is completely wrong. There's in no way, shape, or form, in my opinion, can you compare N scale to either narrow gauge 3 or narrow gauge 30. They're just
it would
not
be
the same thing.
The gauge
Other than you can make a comparison in the width.
Yeah.
If you
the gauge
measure
itself.
real world width, yes, real world width is a couple of millimeters off from each other, but that's the only comparison you can make.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's closer to 2.5 foot scale as opposed to 3-foot scale, which is what HON3 is. And then he says this, why model in HON3 instead of HON30? Because they don't make a commercial HON30 flex track or turnouts. You'd have to build it all. And you could. Fast Tracks has the jigs for that. So you could do that. But there's nothing commercially available that's HON30.
Yeah.
And the only reason they do ON30 is because it's the same gauge of track as HO flex track.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they've gone that way. Otherwise, guys would be doing 3-foot scale and O.
Yeah, but you still have to change out, if you're going to go the ON30, you still have to get the correct sized ties.
Yeah, your ties still wouldn't be the
same.
same.
Look right.
Yeah, but that's why most guys go that way, and why Bachman went to that, because it's so much easier to find track. If you don't want to hand lay your track or buy HON30 track, you can do it with HO track. It just won't look exactly right, but it's doable. That's a commercial tweak that model railroading does in almost every scale, is they compromise because it's more feasible cost-wise, either production or selling, to make them profit. And that's why they do it, and they'll tweak all that stuff. That's why English scale is just ever so slightly different than American scale
and Japanese scale. And
it's Japanese for the same reason. They're just done a little bit different for those reasons. Yeah. In my opinion, that's what they're done for.
If you're going to do HON30, you're going to be scratch building a lot of things.
Yeah.
As far as equipment goes.
And Heath, yes, it would, because like if you were doing main 2-foot scale, which would be smaller than N30, that would be N24 or 2.5, one of the two. But yeah, it would depend on if you wanted to stay prototypical. It would depend on what area you're modeling as to what gauge you end up using. But 3-foot gauge was the most common narrow gauge used, at least in the American West, which is what Dennis and I are both modeling after.
Actually existed.
Yeah, that actually existed. Yeah, ON30 is the same gauge as HO. HON30 is the same gauge as N, but Z is not N30, it's N3. Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. it's the gauge is right, the scale is not correct. In scale track, height and width wise of the rail is nowhere close to scale for HON 2.5 or 30. And that's where a lot of people get confused. It's you've got gauge and scale, two different things completely.
Now, I will say this on my my bulk coal dealer in the Time Saver. I used in scale rail and spiked it to wooden ties to represent about 18 inches that the little coal cars come in and out on. And that worked good for that because that's about what it would have actually looked like in the real world. It's just a little bit bigger than what was provided in the kit that was made out of wood. I just wasn't going to use wood to represent steel rail.
Yeah. Well, actually, guys, we're just over our time.
Yep, we are.
Really quick today. Yeah. That's a pretty good discussion, at least for anybody interested in narrow gauge. If you're not interested in narrow gauge, then it's just a bunch of yapping, as Steve would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody in chat for being here.
See you, everybody. Have a good week.
Hope you all have a good week.
Yeah.
And Dennis and Jerry and Steve, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll get Bill back here before too long.
Yeah.
And Mark, that's not what Mark said. No, that's Gerald. Well, I can't even get it on there. It's going by too fast. There we go. We don't care, Mark. We really don't care. Anyway, everybody have a good week. We'll see you later.
You guys, see you
See
later.
you, everybody. Take care.